Hello, and welcome to our world, planet Earth. This is a shared story of creation as I am currently interpreting it. This is an explanation as to how we got here on planet Earth and some philosophy as to why. But first is Snapchat.
I just want to do something for my personal happiness, and so I think this is really going to be really healthy for me. I've combined two donuts to be like this ring right here.
There is value in all creation stories as they help guide us towards connectivity with the world around us and within us. I'm here to synthesize similarities of an emerging religious view of creation stories and provide a story that appeals to our modern day technological society that helps connect us with the space time fabric of the universe and, more importantly, to our planet, nature, and ourselves. Today, we have a fairly accurate timeline of our creation story, according to that of science. It's a story that meets both the needs of experiencing the world through the lenses of chemistry, physics, and biology while genuinely leaving the playing field wide open for spirituality and curious examination of the awe of the great mystery. Allow me to briefly summarize the creation story of Turtle Island in order to emphasize the integrity towards the world around us that this story conveys and the importance of that. In the Iroquois oral tradition, Sky Woman falls between some roots of a great tree from the heavens. She tumbles down towards earth, at which time was a great cloud of water without land. A flock of birds catches her as she tumbles down towards earth and lands in the water. A few creatures offer to help by swimming down into the water, trying to grab some soil. The muskrat succeeds in getting a scoopful of soil and places it on the turtle's back, and in some stories, the muskrat, or whatever animal went down to the bottom, perishes in their attempt to acquire the soil. Nonetheless, the soil from the bottom of the ocean is set on the turtle's back and it begins to multiply, eventually forming Turtle Island, or otherwise known today as North America. In the story of Turtle Island, Sky Woman falls from the heavens onto Earth. This signifies that there is a heavens or another realm or other dimensions that we here on Earth are connected to in some way. The land above the Earth is where Sky Woman is from, and since we are descendants of her, we share in that connection. Sky Woman's descendants are all born onto this earth, and thus we ancestrally share a connection between the heavens and the earth. Some versions of this story include wolves, whose characters represent opposing forces of nature. Even in the summary given just a minute ago, we see the forces of nature at play when some creatures die in an attempt to find soil for Sky Woman. We are from the earth, we are from the heavens, and there is an ever unfolding struggle of mortality and impermanence in life. Those are the points of the story. With science today, most of us in modern society have perhaps lost the ability to believe in this story and other stories like Adam and Eve in a literal sense. Losing the ability to believe in a creation story that emphasizes the connection that we share towards the earth, the soil, the wind, the rain, and the other living beings on this planet, and the relevance of a connection with the ethereal realm is a concern because we lose an ability to act on perhaps inherent and scientific connections that we all share, which I will talk about here shortly. A contemporary Native American spiritual leader, Black Elk, says that this connection between the material world and spirit is vital and life-giving. Recognizing our connection allows us to thrive together. He says, the first piece, which is the most important, is that which comes from the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all of its powers, and when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that this center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. Our story. Recognizing the oneness we all share might be a stretch for some. So, let's start at the beginning and let's talk about what we scientifically know as fact. Our story goes something like this. What happened before or outside the Big Bang will continue to be a part of the great mystery. But we do know that about 15 billion years ago, there was a bang. A Big Bang. All of the matter of the universe that was somehow confined to a small spoonful flipped a switch and was endowed with energy. This bang of matter spread into a huge hydrogen cloud out from the original point. These clouds consisted of the simplest molecule that we know, hydrogen. This cloud was not spreading equally nor evenly. 300 million years after the Big Bang, waves and ripples in the hydrogen cloud were amplified, and with the forces of gravity, they began to pull each other into groups, big groups. Imagine a whole galaxy worth of hydrogen atoms, all attracted by gravity to little clumps, all circling a center clump. At a certain point, giant clumps of hydrogen exert such a gravitational force on itself that the bonds that separate each hydrogen from other hydrogens begin to dissolve, and in doing so release energy in a process that we call nuclear fusion. This boiling mass of compressed hydrogen atoms formed more complex molecules. What was once just a bunch of one proton, one electron atoms in a giant cloud began to fuse into metals and other heavier elements. This giant ball of nuclear fusion is what we call stars. Their byproducts can be found all over the chemistry periodic table. Fast forward 10 billion years of hydrogen bumper cars and star creation until we see our beautiful, life-giving star that we call the Sun, born about 5 billion years ago in our local galaxy, the Milky Way. Our Sun is located about midway out from the center of the galaxy. Any closer, there would be too much galactic radiation. Any further, and it would be too lonely. A true Goldilocks zone. Sometimes orbiting clumps around stars end up orbiting for so long that they too attract matter, start compressing, and start boiling. With the right conditions of stardust, gravity, and orbital stability, planets are formed. Our planet Earth is the third planet out from our sun. Over 1 billion years of asteroids and space rocks smashing and boiling in orbit, we started to see our planet come to life. Volcanoes raged and oceans were treacherous. Harmful radiation from the stars beat down on the Earth's surface due to a lack of atmosphere. The Earth cooled down a bit, but it was still an absolutely inhospitable planet for life as we know it today. In a barren, lifeless world, volcanic areas and acidic seas were the primordial soup of the first simple enzymes. Enzymes multiplied and changed certain qualities of the oceans and the seas. New environments created by the byproducts of these enzymes created new conditions, new petri dishes for other molecules to form together. About 3.8 billion years ago, we crossed a milestone. Mysterious chance after billions of years and conditions led to enzymes and lipid layers forming together to create the first cell. They multiplied and multiplied and multiplied. The first life organisms ate and pooped and changed the environment, making it more and more hospitable for other, more complex cells to evolve. This process took billions of years to get to this point. That's a long time. 700 million years ago, there were jellyfish, followed by hard-shelled creatures about 570 million years ago. Mammals came around 200 million years ago. Dinosaurs became extinct 65 million years ago, and Homo sapiens first appeared around 600,000 years ago. We are but a blip in Earth's development thus far, despite how much we have altered our planet's ecospheres. The stabilizing of our planet's geology, in tangent with environmental changes from primordial enzymes and cellular life, changed a volcanically exploding acidic knife party to a more hospitable planet for swimming, walking, and eventually talking organisms was a process of, 12 to 15 billion years. Many, many millennia of years of mutual feedback between environment and organisms shaped the planet into an ecosphere of feedback loops and deep ecological interactions between living organisms, their byproducts, the sea, the land, and the air. Our ancestors, the living beings all around us and within us, are so unfathomably in touch with our planet. Let me repeat that for emphasis. The life forms all around us play a crucial role in the development and maintenance of the planet that we live on. We are nothing without the birds, bees, bugs, planets, algae, soil biology, fungi, and microbes that inhabit the world and the earth around us, under us, and within us. To ignore the ecosystems from which we are born is to ignore our own history and cuts us off from what gives us life. One should pay attention to even the smallest crawling creatures, for they too may have a valuable lesson to teach us. And then there was science. Humans have come a long way in our evolution. Building upon our shared discoveries, we have attempted to conceptualize matter into universal laws. We have come a long way. Let's start with Isaac Newton. Newtonian physics is all about that apple falling from the tree. He helped humanity to describe mechanical events, or events that involved forces acting on matter, using the laws of motion and gravity. We all know and love these laws, such as an object at rest will remain at rest until acted upon by another force. These laws have aided in the development of basic and applied research for many aspects of our lives. They are absolutely and mathematically perfect, unlike our universe. Newtonian physics began to break down with the emergence of the theory of relativity and special relativity. Einstein describes how mass, time, and space all relate to each other. This includes the speed of light defining the relationship between energy and matter. An object traveling at or near the speed of light is affected by time and space proportionally. For our purposes here, it will suffice to say that this discovery started to close the gap between energy and matter. Imagine the universe as a blanket of interrelated space and time woven together, a blanket with massive stars and planets and people on it. And then comes quantum physics, which throws Newtonian physics just about completely out of the window when we start to look very, very closely at our world. Mechanical Newtonian physics describes the world as if it were Legos. This is easy to grasp if the smallest unit of space were the atom. As we all know, we can go smaller, much smaller, and the smaller that we go, the weirder and more dreamlike things appear to be. Objects such as light are neither particle nor waves entirely or completely. This is called the wave-particle duality conundrum. Light is very easily thought of as a wave. Its oscillations give it its properties. Visible red light has a slower oscillation than orange light, which has a slower oscillation than yellow, and so on throughout the rainbow. Interestingly, light also has particle-like properties. In the 1900s, Planck found that light shown on different types of metals eject photons, making light seem like a particle knocking electrons off of these metals. Einstein wrote in regards to how particles and waves act, "It seems as though we must use one theory and sometimes the other, while at times we may use either. We are faced with a new kind of difficulty. We have two contradictory pictures of reality. Separately, neither of them fully explains the phenomena of light, but together they do." This is highly important for our discussion here in regards to our relation to the material universe. The mere act of observation affects experimental findings in the wave-particle defining experiments. The magnitude of this is significant because it puts us as conscious beings in the driver's seat of our collective unfolding experience of discovering the material universe. We ask the questions, and we try to find the answer based on those questions. In searching for universal truths, we are inherently bound by this subjective lens. We are relating to the material universe that we are dealing with. Another example of this is the Pauli exclusions. Paul goes into how seemingly unrelated physical objects' electrons do indeed affect one another. Paul Dirac says, "Everyone and everything we interact with affects us. Pick a flower on Earth, move the farthest star." What he meant by this statement is that if you pick up a flower on Earth, that is to say, if you change some of the quantum states of the electrons that a flower has, every single electron in the universe responds to that, including the electrons of a distant star. There is an instant reaction to something else in the universe by the change created here because of the weirdness of quantum mechanics and spin properties. The hard problem of matter is that we know nothing about the intrinsic quality of physical events except when these are mental events that we are directly experiencing. In having conscious experience, we learn something about the intrinsic nature of physical stuff, for conscious experience is itself a form of physical stuff. With the emergence of science from about the time of Newton, there started to be a great divide. The cosmos, divinity, and the heavens have all been intellectually separated from our lives here on Earth. Newtonian physics, while valid and still a very helpful way of describing our world today, started us down the thought train that the universe is quantifiable and can be known through experimentation. This removed the awe and divinity and the great mystery from the material world, leaving it just to be a bunch of Legos that fit together somehow. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said it best: "The artificial separation of humans and the cosmos is at the root of our contemporary moral confusion. But the more that we know, the more that we come to find out that we don't know. Science, especially since Einstein and much more so since quantum theories, supports the notion that we are all connected with everything around us in deep ways with the smallest pieces of what makes matter. We are connected materially, energetically, and divinely in relative quantum space and time. This is to say that there is a direct relationship with the mind and the body, the spirit and the soul, the souls of the dead and the soils of today. So, when we really get down to the nitty gritty of quantum physics, it appears that things are a little less easier to understand. Things are a little bit more dreamlike. This leaves the door pretty nicely cracked for some wholesome, helpful spiritual beliefs to take over, especially if they add relevance to our lives and who we are and what we're doing. So, who are we? Who am I? I know we are all connected in ways so intrinsic to our being that is taken for granted. What does this all mean to the me that is sitting in front of the screen watching this video? Where are we headed and why? I think the thrust, the shtick, the relevant points of this are shared by similar trends of thought, such as Genesis Christianity, as well as perhaps some roots of Catholicism, which Catholicism is translated to mean universal oneness or something like that. Teilhard de Chardin was a very big proponent of this idea that we are all united by some primordial attraction, and we thrive when this connection is realized. We know that the matter in the universe relates to other matter in deep ways, but we're not just talking about space rocks here. The matter of our minds, of our brains, of our bodies interact with the world around us. Our minds, which are a complex expression of space and time fabric, are striving for new, novel modes of connection with the world around us. We are perhaps getting to a point where terms like posthumanism and ultrahumanism might come into play to provide a language that acknowledges our collective mind space. Our collective mind space may be easily exemplified in the tools that we have already created for faster connection, such as the internet and cell phones. We are evolving the way that we connect on a level that is really quite profound, especially when thinking about how mind chips and brain downloads are on the near horizon. This evolution of mind space is not only progressive in terms of relating to our biological evolution, but inevitable. The evolution of technology is not for its own sake and power, but rather as a tool for our novel creation and growth. Ilia Delio says that ultrahumanism is not perfection of being through artificial means, but evolution towards more being. More being in actualization includes freeing the bonds that hold us back. This means more justice, more peace, more forgiveness, more mercy, more compassion, more kindness, and more love. At the very core, we are somehow connected. We can use words like universal love, God, divinity to describe the pure connection that we all share and be humbled in our unknowingness of how it works. This connection that we all share is continuously striving to meet with itself. We are each an expression of the universe, trying to connect once again with itself, ourselves. Evolution has produced the very best ways of connecting with the physical world and with each other, utilizing space-saving pathways and more complex, resilient structures. Evolution is the continuous unfolding of who we are. Evolution is not mechanistic, but rather a continuous process of which there is probably no real end. Just a continuous remelding, unfolding, and expression of being and exemplifying our connection to the rest of the universe. This theory is perhaps backed up by other traditions as well, using different language and terms. In Buddhism, there is the term emptiness, which refers to the way of perceiving the world in which there is no contextual thought baggage. Imagine this scene. You're walking on a scenic path. You take a deep breath in. You see the colors. You see the shapes of the world. You see life. You are in full immersion of this stroll through nature, hearing the sounds and seeing the life. This full immersion experience is an example of emptiness, or a fully perceptive experience. Imagining that scene, like we are now, is a fully cognitive experience, though arguably you're immersed in the imaginative process of this dialogue. Living and mindfully perceiving, rather than judging and cognitively analyzing our experience, has its benefits of immersion and integration of experience into the reality of where we are in the present moment. There is absolutely nothing like the exact moment you are always living and breathing in, unfolding throughout. Welcome to the present moment. Can I take your order? We can also train this ability of perception through tools of meditation, prayer, and other forms of mindfulness practice. The brain as an antenna. Mind no longer appears like an accidental intruder into the realm of matter. Mind may be the creator and the governor of the realm of matter. Quantum phenomena make it possible to propose that the background of the universe is mind-like. The mind is like an antenna. It's not perfect. It gets a lot of signals to sort out and pick out what to pay attention to. The mind is continuously picking up cues from the universe for connection and for growth. We are continuously given chances for connection through our consciousness and perception. At this point, it's perhaps important to define what consciousness is. A working definition through this lens is consciousness is an expression of being. The textbook definition, being aware of our surroundings / awake, somewhat fits into that, in that being / expressing who we are is a realization and an awareness of the meeting of the inner and outer worlds. Each living and non-living being is an unfolding expression of the universe. We humans are conscious on some levels, but by no means viscerally aware of the most profound levels on the day-to-day. Perhaps aside from mystical experiences, if even that. Plant consciousness is expressed in some ways that we are not attuned to. Though certainly these are not less important ways, and in fact I think that they're more important ways. Imagine the image of a forest, making its way through day and night, summer and winter, acting in accordance to the tune of the sun and the seasons in order to live and to thrive. The forest is working together with the air, the water, the soils, and other beings in order to be the plants, the animals, the fungi, the microbes that they are, that we are. We as humans would not be here on this planet without plants. Their expression, their consciousness, their awareness, their being is vitally important to us. For us to express ourselves, we need to work with them. I think that the universe not only likes but thrives on this symbiosis. Perhaps at the very core, we can call this symbiosis or uniting of expressions love. Teilhard de Chardin says that the success of humanity's evolution will not be determined by survival of the fittest, but by our own capacity to creatively converge and unify. Our antennas, which we call brains, pick up these signals of unification, mix them with our own experiences, and express them in our own unique ways to create novel human experiences which fuel a wholesome living in a sometimes very difficult world. Human beings are in continuous evolution. We live in an unfinished universe. Life moves towards newness. Life is an emerging process of creativity, novelty, and future. Evolution is the rise of consciousness, and consciousness in relation to matter is the name of the game. The Omega Source. If you had to put a name to that mysterious source of connection that lies within us and connects us all to all that ever was, all that ever is, and all that ever will be, what would you call it? The Omega Center, God, love, divinity, Allah, Christ consciousness, Buddhahood, nature, the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, I think we're all talking about the same thing. It's the source of tangential energy that attracts us all together. When we follow this energy and unite, we transcend into something bigger. As Teilhard de Chardin puts it, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. As love and realization of our connection deepens, consciousness expands. As novel, life-giving connections are secured, more possibilities, more petri dishes for connection are born. Realizing the spiritual connection between matter, the universe, and our hearts and minds is the name of the game that we are playing out. Inner consciousness is the mind. Outer consciousness is the matter of the world. Spirituality is the biological necessary counterpart to the release of the inner consciousness and connecting it with the outer. Plotinus says, God is not external to anyone, but is present within all things, though they are ignorant that he is so. We have not tended to this divine connection to ourselves lately, and have perhaps been thrown off track when science made milestones in conceptualizing the universe at a faster pace than religious texts. These developments give us the opportunity for a deeper connection. A religion that takes seriously the inner dimension of the universe and how that pertains to our experience of the external world is vital for true altruistic enactments that bring all beings of the planet closer to realizing themselves. A religion that dismisses the vital role that the material universe plays in the expression of God's love is a little behind on the times. A deep sense of commitment to the earth and the respect towards its inhabitants is a primary focus on any emergent reconciliation between religion and science. God works through the material universe, and his or her or whatever pronoun for the mysterious source of tangential energy that attracts new experiences of connection that you want to use unfolds in our daily lives in every action, thought, and perception we experience. Jesus and Buddha are prime examples of a new consciousness. They both achieved a high level of connection with the Omega Center. Both their primary value centers are pointed towards an altruistic, global, empathetic connection of the world and its inhabitants on a level that was and still is radically different from what is normally held. Ken Wilber says, the mystics discovered the higher levels of being through an expansion of evolution of their own consciousness. Subconsciousness of matter and body gives way to self-consciousness of mind and ego, which in turn gives way to the superconsciousness of the soul and spirit. We use this clean burning soul energy to perhaps add value to the world in ways that are directly relevant to us. When inner reality is stronger than outer reality, one can act from choice, creating one's own life. Our minds create the world, not the other way around. Science understands the intricate pathways that mind and matter experience, and our society is experiencing global connection like no before. This connection is not without tragedy, horror, and strife, which is why it is imperative to be centered around shared ultra-humanistic values of peace, empathy, justice, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and love. Operating within this inner reality of connection to the Omega Center allows us to become more into the authenticity of our true selves and to God, nature, and love. The more we can enter into this oneness, the more we are free from our fragmentations. Our brains are in some respects like couch potatoes in our ability to acquire the center, to which prayer, mindfulness, stillness, and genuine connection with nature and the elements may help us to revitalize this realization. We have the capacity to become new beings. To become a new type of community, we must become a different people. To summarize these questions of what are we? What's the human experience? What are we doing? And the like, which I think we will not truly know until we once again return to the soil. But I do believe that there are a few things that we can infer and ponder. I think that we are each the universe expressing itself in our own unique way. None of us are wrong or without purpose in being here. We are each working out the kinks of how to live, how to love, and how to dream. We are each striving to express who we are and figure out this thing called life. That mission is special and particularly different to each and every one of us. There are many facets of this, including the importance of alleviating some of the most degrading and nasty parts of social and environmental inequalities that we have created for ourselves so that each and every human and other being has Maslow's hierarchy of needs met so that we may move up on the pyramid towards love and actualization. I do believe there is a great mystery, an unknown, something behind the veil, an unexplainable experience. God, love, the universe, nature, breath, spirit, soul. I do believe that we can get a taste of what this is with primary spiritual experiences. There are many ways of experiencing what divinity means to you, including breath exercises, meditations, flow states, and altered modes of awareness. Listening to Terence McKenna talks may offer another view as to a type of peak human experience. We are the universe, the great mystery, expressing itself. I've had a recurring dream that as I'm laying in my bed, I reach up with my ethereal hands and pop my human head experience off. It's as if I take the fishbowl off my head. I float in an infinite spatial pool of light. I feel like I'm much grander than my little body. I feel not like my body contains my soul, but that my soul is temporarily contained in this body vessel and that it is living the experience of Tommy, at least for now. The human experience for a brief moment feels like that of a video game, like a bunch of infinitely knowledgeable beings being given a clunky set of Legos to guide with controllers and awkward puppeteering instruments, learning and figuring out how to learn and love and grow on this planet that we call Earth. I feel a swoosh and a loud snap, and I'm back laying in my bed. Having a bit of a loose tether to the world, in my opinion, allows for fear and worry to subside and shows us that we don't have a lot of time here on planet Earth in our current individual experiences. The messages that I've gotten from these dreams are that of an urgency to follow through on what I want to do in life, as well as seeking out other people's wisdom and purpose and relating to them. Connecting with people, having reciprocal relationships that draw on both our value sets is one of the most satisfying dynamics that I believe that we can have as humans. I guess the point that I'm wanting to get across here is this. The world is what we want to make it, but we must draw on the lifeblood that got us here. I want to emphasize the importance of being close to nature and learning how to live, love, grow, develop, and die from the greatest and deepest part of our own being, nature and life. There is a lot at play here in the universe, and we are but a drop in the ocean. Setting ourselves up for success is vital for the continuation of the expansion of consciousness. Let's think big. Let's think into the future. Let's think about how what we're doing now affects people 7 generations down from us. Let's create projects that take more than a lifetime to complete. Let's help alleviate suffering and create goodwill for all. Let's get creative. The I is God's creative activity. It is not something in the past or something that is over and done with. It is God's acting, God's loving in the present moment. The I is the now of God's creative love. Ilia Dalio. Please give me some comments down below about your take on the human experience, as well as what it means to believe in a creation story. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below how crazy I am. Also, check out the description for some cool things. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to make your way over to the like and subscription buttons and punch them down with your fists repeatedly. And then head over to my merch shop to get some merch. If you want to see more of these videos, buying some merch helps me out.